But just know that the hip is obviously the largest, most powerful joint in the body. It's the most dynamic. So there's tons of possibilities here. Don't think that what we show you today is the only thing that you can do, right? So for me, for hip extension, I'm not looking to increase the range of motion like we are with the passive test. My simple test for glutes, right, and that hip extension is the primary extensor of the hip is the glute. So that's what I'm looking for. I typically will watch or place a hand on the quad. The main reason for this is a lot of people will supplement quad movement for quad, or quad movement for glute movement. So I ask the client, I just want to see you engage your right glute. So squeeze your right glute. He does really well with it, right? There's no engagement here, right? Let's see you do the left one. It's good. It's a little bit less than the right, but the quad doesn't engage. So for me, after this, there's another progression. Obviously, we're not teaching you guys that stuff in terms of exercise, but there's another progression that I use after here. You'll have a lot of people, and they'll fail this. And they're like, oh, why can't I do it? The key is that they just try. When people do activation drills, the cue that you give them is less is more. Because if he really tries to muscle through it and find that glute, he'll engage the whole entire leg typically. So you just tell him, just think like 5%, 10%, whatever it needs to come online. So it's just a soft engagement of the glute. So go ahead and engage the glute. And you'll hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax it, and engage the other side. It's a lot harder for him. You can see how much more he has to shake. So we have to create a relationship. If I gave him a higher level glute activation drill, he would probably start to overdevelop on one side and not develop on the other side. So it's a real simple drill you can get clients to do. Also, there's very little boundary to adherence with this. When you're in bed, I want you to squeeze your butt when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-second holds. Just every day. And so guess what? That's tons of repetitions over time. Their glutes start to come back online.
And you can tell them it won't make you a tight ass. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Right? You'll be fine.
So we talked a little bit about the transverse plane and rotation. So this one is very easy to do. So all I want you to do is turn your toes in. Good. Turn your toes out. Turn your toes in. Turn your toes out. That's it. Most people don't need this one. Most people need this one. If you notice there's crazy compensations going on, you can totally turn this one in. And this is the one that needs it for David, right? Relax. Turn the other ones in. This one can be tricky, right? You want them to feel it on the outside of their hip, but what they might actually start to feel is a lot of pull in the adductors and the groin. So you have to say, I need you to feel it on the outside of your hip when you do it. So you can also do it like this. Go ahead, turn in, and you can have hands. You can feel where it's going from. Right now, I feel a lot of engagement from TFL and the anterior fibers of glute medius. Same thing. Go ahead, turn in. And I can feel, wants to use more adductors here. Right?
It's definitely what I feel, man. And my left hip is the one that gives me. If I'm going to get pain, I'm going to get it on my left side.
Right? Pretty simple. Right? Not so bad. Hip flexion is a little trickier. The reason hip flexion is a little bit trickier is because, go ahead, pull your knee towards your chest. Everybody can do that pretty easily, right? It's not a problem. It's not too hard for some people. Obviously this one, right? Go ahead, point your toe, lift your leg up straight. Now we're getting into the realm of like where we're stretching a lot of the posterior chain and we're like, ooh, do we want to necessarily do that? I don't know. That might not be what I want. So for me, what I like to do for people when they lack a little bit in hip flexion, go ahead, draw your knee up. Coming. I feel the outside like TFL, rectus femoris, make sure they're not using that much because for most people it is a psoas issue. So I can ask them to slightly externally rotate and I'm going to push down and I want you to hold. I don't give a big push. And I want you to kind of feel it more in through here, yes?
Yeah.
Right? Now what I want you to do is keep the same tension but pretend that my hand is there. I'm going to take my hand away. So just keep pulling up, keep that tension, and we just have them hold and breathe. So it's an isometric drill. You guys have heard of planks, right? Same thing. Isometric drills are great. And then when you lower it down, slow with control, like a 4-second count. 1, 2, 3, 4, then they slowly lower down. Hip flexion is a tricky one because they're going to want to overcompensate with TFL. This is where you have to be really on when you give this drill for a person. You don't want them to take it up too far because most people are not really lifting with what they need to lift with. Again, as far as hip flexors go, the one that typically needs to be trained or create a better relationship with, it's those more subtle ones like a psoas, not so much TFL, rectus femoris, all that sort of stuff. Abduction is a little bit trickier, but we're going to start off with adduction first. So, bend the knee, let the knee fall out. They're going to go to where they can. Now you'll see if I let his knee go, what's going to happen is he's going to roll through his pelvis. We don't want that to happen, so what we do is say, hey, you're going to put a pillow, you're going to put a bolster here, whatever you need, right? You can, if you have like, husband and wife, you're just going to rest it on your husband and wife while they're sitting there on the couch. And all I want you to do is slowly pull your knee towards the midline. And when you guys do this, you're like, it actually feels hard. You're like, that's hard.
It's not easy.
And then you're going to slowly let it fall out. So the key is a lot of people want to do this. They just let it drop. You have to make them understand the importance of eccentrics or time under tension. So you're going to say you're going to move that leg into abduction with control, and then you'll adduct. If you want to give them an idea of creating tension into the tissue, go ahead, push into my hand. You give them a little bit of force. So keep coming, push into my hand, keep coming, keep coming. This will ramp up the tension in the adductors. The hip movement stuff is a little bit more complicated. Good. And let's go left side down, right side up. Go ahead and bend the knees. A little bit lower, like maybe 45 degrees. The ankles are going to stay together, right? And all I'm going to have you do is you're going to bring the knee up into my finger. So bring the knee up into my finger. So here's the abduction. You want them to feel it more in their glute medius, not so much their TFL. And you tell them that. Like if you want, you can give yourself a little biofeedback. Typically I would put something underneath their head, but I'm hoping that David's beard cushions it enough, right? I want you to feel in through here. So then they push up. So go ahead, push into my hand. Good. And I'm going to push down. You're going to resist me and hold. Good. Hold right there. Hold strong. Breathe. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand away, but I want you to pretend that it's still there. A lot of people have a hard time understanding tension. And it's the same thing. When you slowly relax it and let it fall down, you're going to control that movement. You're not just going to let them collapse. Right? That's it. People need this a lot. People will go to bar class and